What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. We're flying solo this evening as Tim's on assignment. Let's say that, trying to sound all professional. And Emilio's out to dinner, so they may hop in here a little later. But as of right now, we're going to be flying solo. So you're stuck with me this evening, all right? And we're just going to kind of talk a little more in depth about the recap of the Packers-Lions game that just concluded last night as the Lions got the big win there. Was it 24-14? We'll hit on some key things from that. We've got Chalk Talk queued up for tomorrow. I almost did it tonight, but I know the guys will be mad at me if I leave them out of that, so we'll definitely hold it off till tomorrow. I know we got people filing in here starting a little early this evening. I thought since I'm not waiting on them, we'll just go ahead and get cranked up. But let's do this first things first. All right, so as we get cranked up here, I know everybody's filing into the chat, probably wondering why we went live a little early. There you go, 2 over this. Got it. You're early tonight. It's not Christmas yet. Hey, it's Christmas here at the house, man. As I'm speaking right now, Mandy is tearing down everything Halloween, and the Christmas stuff's already going up, man. We are those people. If you don't like it, I apologize. It is what it is. But let's see here in the chat. Andres was the first one in here. It says Packers are going to be better after the bye week. I'm not worried. I completely agree, Andres. You guys have probably caught on the way I fan. I don't freak out over losses like last night. Did it suck? Yeah. Did I want to win? Absolutely. But the reality is nobody was expecting you to win. Nobody was giving you a chance. The part that sucks, and I completely understand where people are coming from, is how the Packers kind of they had a shot to win it, right? And you get a shot every week, but the way you lose that game is the toughest part. You know, the pick six, obviously – reduces pretty much, I don't want to say any chances, but it made it very, very, very difficult for the Packers to win that game. You guys know I talk all the time about turnover differential in middle late. Actually heard Coach Belichick on the McAfee show earlier today, talking about the middle late again, right? It's something that he thinks is very important. It's about controlling the momentum of the game, all that. And when you lose the middle late and the turnover differential on one play, going to be tough. And you can see the Detroit Lions game plan was simply to play under control, to not give the ball away, right? It was almost like they came out and was like, you know what? We're not worried about scoring a ton of points. We're just going to control this game, make sure we minimize our mistakes, and let's let the younger Packer team make the mistakes, right? And that's essentially what happened. But at the end of the day, you seen fight in the second half. If you don't throw that pick six and you clean up the penalties, it's a whole different ballgame. I came away kind of feeling like Elton Jenkins did. I don't know if you guys seen Elton Jenkins' quote, but it was something along the lines of, tonight the better team didn't win. It's just the team that executed it. And I know some people roll their eyes at that, and I can respect that. But I really do agree with what he said there. You know, let's put it this way. If the penalties were completely flipped, right, and how crucial the penalties were at those moments, and you don't throw that pick six, Packers win this game. I really believe that. There was an opportunity, you know, obviously the drop passes were an issue as well, the big issue. And that's been an issue for a while. And you know, we love to rave over the young wide receiver core that the Packers have. And I think it's just, right? Like you should be raving over them. I think they are an excellent group. But at the same time, there's a reason receivers fall to the later rounds, right? And Christian Watson, you know, I remember I think it was Bob McGinn's scouting reports where he would talk to former scouts, and they were kind of or maybe they were current scouts, breaking down the scouting reports for some of these players. And Christian Watson was, I love everything about him. He just can't catch the football, right? So we can't be surprised that drops have been an issue. Now, I'll say this about Christian Watson, man. That dude, his hands have really, really improved. You know, he made a hands catch last night in the pouring rain. Now, obviously, he misjudged a couple of balls, which the wind was swirling. You guys heard Tim talking about that. In the stands, it didn't feel that bad, but you could look on the field and see the wind kind of kicking around, swirling. And is it an excuse? Yeah, it's an excuse. But at the same time, if you just completely ignore the fact that those are factors in the game, I have more of a problem with the game plan itself and chucking the ball around the yard in those conditions, because the running game was there. And Matt kind of got away from it. Now, if he hits on all these first down throws, I'm not even talking about it, right? I mean, I am. You guys know me. I will be talking about, like, man, I'm glad he hit on him. But, I mean, the reality was, if I could find it here, I know I've got it charted. I think it's on the back of this chart. the as far as first down passes, if I charted it correctly, and sometimes I might miss one or two. In the first half, we had 5 first down passes. What I mean by that, guys, is on first down, we threw the ball 5 times in the first half. We connected on 3 of those, and 2 of them fell incomplete. And the reason that's so important is when that ball falls incomplete on a 1st and 10, now you're looking at 2nd and 10, you're automatically behind schedule, right? And that's really what got us away from the running game, in my opinion. Now, you chose to pass on first down. There's no two ways about that. So that was a decision by Matt to say, hey, look, we're going to push the ball down the field. And then in the second half, listen, you got to take this one with kind of a grain of salt because you're playing from so far behind. You're going to be throwing on first down more, right? And that's the whole point of taking the ball. And we're going to hit the Patreon questions actually here in a second. And we've got some trade rumors too that we'll hit on too. But when you take the ball in the first half, before I say what I'm going to say here, I want you to understand I am team defer. I've always felt like you needed to defer to the second half, right? And it does a couple of different things for you. You know, first of all, you get a chance to double dip coming out of halftime. Like you go into halftime, if you can somehow put up 3 points, get the ball coming out of halftime, score on that opening drive, man, you're talking about flipping the momentum of the game. It's huge. But the other thing is, statistically, the team that scores first typically wins the ball game. So I can see where Matt's coming from an analytics standpoint of, all right, let's take the ball. If we go down and score, we got a better chance of winning the ball game because you're kind of now the other team's playing from behind, even though it's early. Now that comes down to different styles of coaching staffs and how aggressive they want to be just because they're losing. Some teams will stick with the run to the very end, and it's not really an issue. So I'm team defer. I'm just saying I'm trying to explain the thought process behind Matt LaFleur doing that. But in the second half, first down passes you had 9 first down passes in the second half. 5 of them fell incomplete. 4 were converted. Okay, so that's a big issue. Now in the second half, again, you're playing from behind. You're going to be throwing more on first down. I'm more upset with the first half first down throws because you would have plays where, like, you know, you heard Tom Brady talk about on the telecast, and I see people roasting Brady. I personally thought he did a hell of a job. I really did. I think from week 1 to now, he's gotten way better at calling the game. He's this wealth of knowledge. I mean, first of all, he's the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. Greatest player, I don't know, but for me, it's all about championships. It really is. And I know some people like to get in the debate: is he better than? Is he the reason they won, or is it Belichick? We went to Tampa and won without Belichick. Yeah, he did it with a top 3 offense already put in place too. So it's kind of, you know, it is what it is. But he was talking about on second down, second and short, you don't have to try to force the ball, and Jordan almost threw an interception. Those are the things when I really break down Jordan's tape and I look at kind of scouting Jordan and go, okay, what does he need to do better? Where are the mistakes being made? It's situational awareness. And I kind of put a little bit of that on Matt too, because, you know, it's Matt's job to make sure the quarterback understands every situation. And at the same time, the people that are saying, look, he got $250 million, touche. You're right, man. You paid him like a top 3 quarterback in the league. You know, is he playing like one right now? Absolutely not. And it is amazing, though, how the people who always defend Goody, they won't even mention that, man, he shouldn't have paid Love. It's just Love is bad. He needs to play better. He needs to figure it out. And it's kind of like, did you rush into that contract? Possibly. You guys know my opinion in the offseason as we closed in on training camp, and then training camp, the holdout where Jordan was basically practicing behind the scenes. My stance was, as an organization, if you think Jordan Love is the guy, then you got to pay him, and you got to pay him now. The longer you wait, the price goes up, right? So it's obvious that they thought he was the guy, and unfortunately, you know, he's struggling right now. I think he can pull out of it because when I look at the mistakes, they're correctable mistakes. They really are. Like that pick 6, that can be coached out of him. You got to learn to throw that ball away. At the same time, I do not disagree, or I do not agree, I should say. I strongly disagree with the way we handled that going into halftime. Guys, when that ball was snapped, there was let me think here. Let me look at my chart. I think there was 32 seconds left. So you were looking at a 2nd and 2 from your own 38 with 1 timeout, I believe, if I remember correctly. And you decided 32 seconds is enough to go down and try to score. And I know in the past, when they've kneeled on the ball before halftime, fans lost their mind, right? That right there was the perfect example of why coaches kneel on the ball. And I know the rebuttal is, well, it's not LaFleur's fault that Jordan made a stupid mistake. Just throw the ball away. Or better yet, just take the sack, let the clock run down type thing. You're right. You're 100% right. At the same time, when you send a competitor out there and go, hey, look, we're going to call a shot play, and it was a shot play. It wasn't just a check down. You know, people were looking at it like, was it just a small check down as good as a run trying to go to Josh Jacobs? Josh Jacobs was safe on that play. What I mean by that, he's safe. He was staying in the block. It just so happens he gets turned around as he's blocking, looks up, Jordan's in trouble, then tries to drift, and obviously, was it Kirby Joseph, I think is his name, was just waiting to pick it off. So with Jordan there, you got to know to throw it away. But at the same time, you're calling a shot play on 2nd and 2 with 32 seconds on your side of the field, getting ready to go into halftime where you know the other team's about to get the ball. Man, like if you were to draw up that entire game and go, okay, what's the one thing you can't do? You cannot throw a pick 6 with 32 seconds. I don't mean to laugh, but like that is the absolute worst thing you could do, man. So it is what it is, right? Again, it's I think that the Packers played a really bad game. Fundamentally, obviously the penalties were an issue. You don't have to have, two brain cells to rub together to figure out the penalties were a big problem. You were horrible with penalties. You turned the ball over. I think the play column was pretty damn bad, me personally, seeing that you got away from the run when your running backs were averaging, your running back 1 was averaging almost 9 yards a carry. Your running back 2 is averaging 7 yards a carry. And you decide, hey, let's start winging it around a yard on first down in the monsoon. I'd love to sit here and go, LaFleur, but if you see it, you got to say it. I think if LaFleur had wanted, if he had it back, he would change things a little bit. That's just me personally. I'm wondering what the chat thinks about that. I'm going to kind of comb through here and see if we can find some chats here. Let's see. Greg Rice says, I want Clayton in my head talking about the positives after I have a bad day to cheer me up. There you go. I'm definitely known as the positive Packer fan. There's no two ways about that. I'm just not going to sit around and be miserable, man. I'm going to try to find the positives while we talk about the negatives as well, right? Coach Lynn says, we were dominated in my opinion. We can learn from this, though. At no point did I feel comfortable in this game. Yeah, and that's the thing is like when it was 10-3 and you're getting ready to go into halftime, I'm going, hey, look, man, this is one of the best teams in the league. And I'm just going to be completely upfront. I know there's some people that think the Lions are overrated. Guys, and Goff's overrated. Goff is playing really, really good football. And I've seen people on Twitter saying, he's check down Charlie. And this, isn't it funny? They're calling him check down Charlie, but they're complaining about Jordan trying to take too many shots and be too aggressive. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta take everything into account there in that regard. I think they were dominated, Coach. Never at any point did I feel like we're going to win this game. But until the pick 6, I was thinking, we're hanging. Look at this. All right, man. This is what I was hoping for. So I understand exactly what you're saying there. Badger Trio with the super chat. Appreciate you, buddy. Says, I'd be concerned if Love is the same as this next year. Yeah, I've bit my tongue several times talking about the whole Love thing, the Love contract. And listen, the reality is you're not going to get rid of him for 2 years unless the compensation's crazy. People are going, you're trading Jordan Love? That's not what I said. The people that want to talk about, is Jordan the guy of the future? I don't think it's even realistic. Let's say Jordan is the worst quarterback in the league. Let's just play along here for a second. Let's say he's the worst quarterback in the league, which I do not think he is. I think he is a top 10 quarterback. I think he's a top 5 quarterback when he's at his best. The problem is when he's at his worst, he's definitely in the bottom third, right? So probably on average somewhere in the middle, somewhere between 10 and 15. Let's say he's the worst quarterback in the league. And you're going to look up in 2 years and you could get out from under the contract, essentially. So you got Malik Willis for 2 years. It just so happens. So you could, if for some reason it went completely south, right? And what I mean by completely south, like Jordan is just a complete bust. If it turned out, and I don't think it's going to be that. I can't emphasize this enough. But if it did turn out to be that, and let's say he ended up getting benched next year, like what Badger Trio is just throwing out there. If it's the same as next year, and I don't think that's a hot button comment there, Badger Trio. Like if he leads the league in interceptions, this year and then comes out next year in the first half of the season, he's leading the league in interceptions again. I mean, I don't think it's unfair to say, no, you can't think about, benching him or replacing him. I don't think it'll happen. I really don't. I think they're going to come out of the bye week and they're going to be ready to roll. And I think Jordan's going to learn from these mistakes. He's still a young quarterback. That's what's crazy, right? But what I was getting at is, if you want to move on after 2 years, it's going to be a heavy cap penalty, but it's manageable. Until then, that's why it feels like, okay, we need to stick with this guy. Now, you guys know I was very vocal throughout the week that if he's 100%, yes, put Jordan out there. If he's 95%, don't put him out there. You got a bye coming up. It's going to be a downpour. Why risk any further injury type thing, right? So now if he goes out there and balls out, of course, I'm not going to be sitting here saying, hey, guys, remember what I said? Like I try to be honest in that regard with my opinions and go, hey, I screwed this up. I screwed that up. You hear me say all the time, I'm married. I'm wrong all the time, right? So I try to point out when I do miss the mark on stuff. But that whole Love thing, it just kind of felt like, hey, why not let him rest another week? And there's people saying, I don't think he was injured. Did you not see him like limping off the field after that throw across his body? Like, I don't understand that opinion, to be honest with you. I really don't. But anyway, Jason Y with the super chat. Appreciate you, buddy. He says, Reed is number 2 in drops for wide receivers in the NFL. Wicks is 4th. Kraft is 1st in tight end drops. It's a great point, Jason. And I can't remember who was on Twitter actually tweeted a picture out of the adjusted completion percentage for Jordan Love last night. It was like 74% or 76%. If his receivers caught all the balls thrown to him like Jared Goff's did, right? The problem is it has nothing to do with the pick six. You know what I mean? Like that's the big and that's what sucks because PFF graded him pretty well, which means they felt like he played pretty well. Other than the pick six, without the pick six, he's probably grading close to the 80s. Now, whether you like PFF or not, that's cool. I know there's things I don't like about it. I've been vocal about that. The pressures are killing me, guys. I'm just being honest. People are posting these false pressure numbers because PFF said this is a pressure, that's a pressure. And you have no evidence of like, okay, which plays did you think were the pressures? And here, let's rebuttal it and show you the plays that we think are pressures, right? And when you approach it that way, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it at all. It's like we got Emilio hopping here. What's up, Emilio?
What's going on?
So the pressures that I follow is Next Gen Stats because it's used by GP. It's used with GPS. Like someone said earlier today, I think I got it charted here. Someone asked, they tagged me in a tweet and said, "Hey man, so and so tweeted this out. Is this correct?" And it basically said that the entire Packer, or I think it was 4 pass rushers, had the same amount of pressures as 1 defender on the lines. Is that true? And it wasn't true. All those pass rushers had way more pressures. So what you ended up with was Rashawn Gary had 2 pressures. Devontae Wyatt had 2 pressures. Obviously, Gary had the half sack. Kenny Clark, McDuffie, Cooper, Nixon, and Mosby all had pressures, and Mosby split that sack with Rashawn Gary. So, I don't know. The PFF stuff, it aggravates me because, like, Amelia, I know you've heard me rant over this a bunch of times. It's like you're not allowed to know what plays were pressures and what weren't. You just got to trust the website. And Next Gen Stats are going, hey, here's the pressures, right? So,
yeah. If you don't like it, decide. Pull it up, watch it, and say, hey, out of those 25, I actually only saw 23 that were pressures. All right, cool. Then you got your own number. Then you actually went back and saw it all happen.
Yeah, definitely. Badger Trio with the super chat says we are 6-3 with the youngest NFL team. Can't complain. See, that's how I'm feeling, Emilio. I don't know you had time to sleep on it, but I'm waking up this morning going, all right, we're 6-3. We're in the playoffs right now. Matter of fact, I've got a screen grab here for you guys. That was tweeted out. I don't know who tweeted it out. I think that's what Pro Football Network is what it looks like, the logo up there. But the Packers have a 76.3% chance of making the playoffs as they sit right now. So, again, 6-3. We're right in that wheelhouse. I talked about going in the year 11-13 wins was my prediction based off the schedule, based off the roster. Right now, it's looking like it's probably going to be about 12 wins. Now, you may lose one you wasn't supposed to win. You may win one you wasn't supposed to, or you were supposed to lose. Or they might win out. They might drop every other game. But the way it sits right now, I'm kind of feeling like 12 wins. How are you feeling about that, Amy? I've got the rest of the schedule here too,
Yeah.
if I can pull
I
it
was
up.
going to pull off that comment real quick just to see.
Yeah, go ahead. You're good.
Yeah, the with Bears coming up and can you pull up that percentages again real quick?
Yeah,
So when I was looking at it, the Eagles, they won, right? They're kind of in the same spot. We're fighting for them with a position. The Vikings won. So if we had won, we'd be sitting somewhere between 85 and 90%, I would think. Am I mad that we're only at 76? No, because it's a crazy division. I was talking to my dad this morning. He's a Cowboys fan. It's like he's like, yeah, it's just a bad season. It's basically over for us. It's like the only chance they have is to go win the division, right? They'd have to chase us, the Vikings, and the Eagles, who are already chasing Washington. So it's the NFC is packed. You're either in it or you're not, basically, at this point, feels like. And I think those chances are definitely fair for us. Like you said, we're going to be we're rooting for the Chiefs, even though we don't want to, but we don't need all that extra help. Give it to the Falcons, or let the South figure it out. But I don't think it's a bad number.
Yeah. So if the Bucs lose tonight, obviously that 54.8% is going to go down again. And going into this past weekend, I was looking for the updated numbers. I haven't gotten them yet.
Yep.
Going into this past weekend, Packers are sitting in the 5 seed with the Vikings winning, Packers losing. Then obviously the Packers will drop, I think, to the 6th seed now. Is that what it is, Emilio?
I want to say we flipped with the Eagles.
That's right, 7th. Yep.
And 7th. We went to 7, and in either Eagles are 5th and Vikings are 6th, or vice versa. But that's the problem: is we're fighting against one in our division and another one who's chasing the 7 and 2, Commanders. So there's not a lot of wiggle room.
Yeah, and if I understood correctly, we've got a 2-win lead on that 7 seed. So
right, exactly.
Got a little bit of cushion there too. And again, you shouldn't even. I shouldn't say you shouldn't, but it doesn't even really matter what other teams do. If you get to 11 wins, you're going to be in the playoffs. That's gonna happen. Like I couldn't tell you the last time an 11-win team didn't make the playoffs. Right? You win 12, slam dunk. You're probably not going to be the 7th seed. There's not many teams that finish the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's Venom Slash in the chat. We were the 7th seed last year. I emoji. So yeah. Again, I don't. The fans that are like really, really negative, and I don't want to tell people how to fan. And again, I'm labeled as a positive Packer fan. I wear it with a badge of honor. I'm not gonna. I wait for football season all off season long, and when it gets here, I'm not going to be miserable, right?
Yeah.
But it's like going in, the same fans that are pissed off right now are the same fans that were expecting to lose anyway. Now all of a sudden, it's just the sky's falling, right? Mm-hmm. And you can't win every game. You just can't. Yeah, would you like to see them win it at home against the Lions? Absolutely. It'd been awesome. Yeah. As cocky as the Lions are, but that's it. They get
however bad that taste was in their mouth, obviously they wanted to win it. Obviously it wasn't good enough, but it happens. It's a week-by-week league. And like we said, it wasn't week 18. It wasn't for the playoffs. It's not going to help. Who was it? Greg right here. 0-2 in the NFC North. 100%, dude. That's brutal. We can't be going 0-2 in the NFC North. We lost our first 2 games to our 2 opponents we despise probably the most, right? The Bears are the Bears. But
here's what's crazy about that, Amelia. Think about this. Both those games we lost, Jordan Love threw pick sixes, didn't he? Threw one against the Vikings.
Yeah.
Threw one against the Lions.
Yeah. Yep. And how many pick sixes are you supposed to have in your career?
Exactly. Right. So
I mean, trust me, I don't love it. I really don't. But at this point, we can't time travel. I'm not going back and taking that pass away. That decision was made in the second. We were mad at it in the second, and it's over. I mean, it's a week-to-week league for a reason. We just got to be happy where we're at in the playoff push. I mean, think about it. If the only chance for all of the NFC West to get in is to win their division, San Francisco is struggling. They're fighting against the Rams. They're fighting against the Cardinals. They're fighting against Seattle. They don't have a playoff berth chance at the moment. If we, the Vikings and the Eagles, keep this winning streak up, or at least keep the numbers up, get us to double digits before week 15, I think that there's really something there.
Yeah, it's a good point. Other news that kind of dropped here. Keep an eye on the chat for me if you got anything. Actually, I like this right here. 2-0 for this tonight. I'm a Zebras fan. I love it. Amen. just make it hard on both teams, but we definitely want the Chiefs to win tonight. No doubt about that. All right, so we got some trade rumors that are kicking up here. And listen, you're going to see the account. You may not like ML football. They tag me in a lot of stuff. They got a huge following. They did quote they did name a source. But this right here came down the pocket a few minutes ago. Don't like the picture choice there, to be honest with you. It's strange. But news, the Green Bay Packers are the co-favorites to trade for standout cornerback Greg Newsome II per at Bovada official. All right. Newsome, a former first-round pick. You can't stop looking now, can you, Mia?
No.
Newsome, a former first-round pick, is only 24 years old, has drawn significant interest from 4+ teams. Now, immediately people go, yes, get us some cornerback help. Let's go to PFF. All right, this year, PFF grades by week 78, 63, 51, 52, 57, 29, 63, 44, 74.5. His defensive grade is a 52.3. Not that good, bub. Not that good.
How dare you?
When you go back, since he got in the league, right, 2021, starting that year by year here, 68.1, 69.1, 69.6, 52.3. Those numbers would suggest he's going to play better ball in the second half of the season. Would I hate it? It depends on the compensation, right? Like, you would get a veteran who's got 4 years experience or 3.5 years experience. He's 6'1", 192, pretty decent size there, former first-round pick. My problem here, you're in the last year of the contract, so it might not necessarily be anything long-term, but let's say it's a 6th-round pick. Would you be willing to trade a 6th-round pick? Everybody in the chat, let me know, would you be willing to pay a 6th-round pick for Greg Newsome? Okay, now, people go, okay, it's the last year of his contract. Why would you do that? Blah, blah, blah. First of all, it'd be a 6th-round pick. It's funny, too. I was thinking I was going to go, no, I'm not interested. But if the compensation's right, obviously, here's how it worked. Let's say you do give a 6th-round pick for him. You play out this year. You don't sign him back because let's say that he didn't play that well. You don't want him back. Chances are he's going to get signed in free agency. You're going to get a 6th-round comp pick back. So you're really renting him for nothing overall. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And who knows? He might be the spark that you need. Like last night with the corners, Nixon struggled, especially on that touchdown catch. I believe it was on 3rd down, too, if I remember correctly. Remember the touchdown catch that St. Brown made? That's actually 4th and goal.
Yeah,
so,
and Keyshawn
just didn't get his head back around. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, does Greg Newsome make that play? Maybe. I don't know. Is he even on that receiver? I don't know. But as it sits right now, this is what it would be. Greg Newsome would leapfrog Eric Stokes and Carrington Valentine on the outside, right? You probably move Keyshawn to the slot, and you'd have Jair and Newsome on the outside, Keyshawn in the slot, leave Evan Williams at safety once he gets healthy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
How do you feel about Emilio? Trading for him. What would you be willing to give up? That's what I'm asking.
We willing to give up, I mean, maybe a 7th, like you said, or 6th. Where do you say 6th? Besides that, though, I honestly would be happier with just it's a progress stopper. He's not 1,000%. Or I mean, we're taking Bullard off the field. Evan Williams is going to be stuck at safety, or Bull's not going to get reps. Keyshawn's going to go back into the slot, where a lot of people last year didn't like Keyshawn in the slot, and they're not mad at Keyshawn right now playing outside a lot. So it's like we're playing musical chairs in the back end, where would we give up 17 points as a defense? And it's not, I mean, it wasn't, they were bending, not breaking. They gave up 150 passing yards, something like that. It's not terrible. They're not in bad shape. And I really do think Hafley's getting them, growing them together. Mm-hmm. It's with Ja out there, Keyshawn on the other side. I'd rather have Bull in the slot. If you're telling me Ja's not going to come back, or we're always going to have a corner rotating, then yeah, I'd give this guy maybe a 7th to bring him over. But that's about it.
Got it. So you give up a 7th-round pick. I'd be willing to go 6th round just because the comp return. But again, I don't think it'll happen. I really don't.
Right.
The Packers are in every talk. You know, you guys probably heard Andrew Brandt talk about it earlier this season. He said, when I was in Green Bay, we would have representatives call us and say, hey, can we mention you guys as interested? And Andrew Brandt would say, to drive up the cost for another team, sure, yeah, mention that we're interested, even though they weren't. So you get a lot of that. I'm not saying that they're going to trade for Greg Newsome. It's just, like I said, it got tagged in a tweet. It got brought up. I wanted to see how everybody felt about it. We'll get back to the chat and see how everyone feels about that. What would you be willing to give up for Greg Newsome, former first-round pick? Mike Hebring with the super chat. Good to see you, buddy. He says, I think it might be time to start thinking about maybe Jordan's second half of last year was the outlier, not the first half of the last 2 years. First half of the last 2 years, yeah, meaning this year and last year.
You're right.
Listen,
so trouble in the first half.
Yeah, Mike, Bob, I can't argue with that. Like, he played like the best quarterback in the league the second half of last year, right? And the first half of last year, he played like one of the worst. So far this year, I want to say minus the interceptions, but hell, that's the problem. You can't just say, oh, forget the interception. You know what I mean? It is an issue. Yeah, I don't think that's an unreasonable commentary. I don't. Now, am I belling on Love? Absolutely not. Let's see how he finishes the season. Obviously, you're stuck now. And my argument earlier this offseason was, if you think he's the guy, you got to pay him. You can't, the longer they waited, they could have got Jared Goff's deal. Instead, they end up getting an inflated deal because they waited on it. It's obvious that Goody thinks he's the guy, right? Time will tell if he actually is. But what do you think about that? You think that's a fair assessment, or do you disagree there, man?
No, I mean, I think it's fair, at least to start thinking about it, that, there's a chance. Obviously, I hope that he's great and he's going to be great for a long time. But I think it's fair that you could at least say, hey, was that second half the outlier? What is different this first half, or what's the same maybe this first half and last year's first half that, that he's chasing or that he's trying to do. I think that, yeah, it's a problem that he keeps trying to get it all in one play. He doesn't need to. There's more time in the game. You got another down. It was the second quarter, all that. So I don't think that's out of line, definitely. Yeah. But
again, I'm not saying I agree with it, Mike, but I don't think it's, like I said, a crazy comment. I don't. I don't like belling on people, right? Like, I don't like.
No, yeah, I'm the same way. I give them the 3-4 years of their contract before we decide to ship the kid, right? I mean,
right.
That's where I'm at. So,
and for me, it's like 2 years. If you go through this season, he struggles. Next year, if you get, let's say,
on a paid commodity, 2 years. So, like, you just paid Jordan. All right, after you got your payment, you get 2 years to show up. If not, that's what you're saying. Or like on a rookie, you want 2 years.
It's basically the way the contract's structured is. It gets a lot easier to get out from under that contract after the second year. So keep in mind, not next year, but the year after that.
Yeah.
Right. So you're kind of, I don't want to say stuck with it. And again, this is assuming Jordan doesn't pan out. Right. We're not saying that. There's going to be somebody in the mentions going, I can't believe you want to get rid of Jordan Love. Nobody is saying that. Mike might be saying that, but I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I don't understand the people that get upset when people mention it. Like, it's just like Carson Wentz didn't happen, right? Like, that was the one where they extended Carson Wentz and he just fell off the cliff, right? There's numerous quarterbacks you can think of, and you can pull them up, I'm sure, and talk about, hey, here's a player where they thought, yeah, he's the guy, and he just ended up not being the guy. Mistakes are made. That's the way it is. So, but thank you for the super chat, Mike. We appreciate you, buddy. Let's see here. Real quick, I want to get some answers to the question. Andres in the chat says, conditional 6th-round pick. I like it. Jason Y said, yes, worth it for a 6th-rounder with the comp pick coming back. Pretty much where my stance was there. Chris N says, yes, all caps for the 6. We need cornerback depth. Can't agree with that. And then Jason Y said, sophomore slump for Jordan. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
I know there's going to be some people, Jason, that say, well, it's not a sophomore year.
Yeah.
Guys, it's a second-year start. Like, it's totally different when you're actually out there on the field, right? So, but
Jason was wondering why would Cleveland trade him if they can get a comp pick themselves? Sometimes that's just management. Wasn't Lombardi talking about that the other day? Is why would you get rid of a player that could give you that comp pick just for that short term, the short term benefit type thing? Right. Or you could carry their salary even.
Unless, of course, it's a conditional, like they were saying, right?
Right. Yep.
Like, okay, in free agency, he might just warrant a 6th-round pick, but if you make it conditional, if he plays 80% of the remaining snaps of the season, then that goes to a 4th round pick or something like that, right? That's the only thing I could think of. And I heard the same podcast, and I think he was spot on with it. So, yeah, it's a good question there, Jason. Also in the chat, Ron Samuel says Mahomes just said that it's the wrong time of the year to be playing our best. Time to build now for the playoffs. Man, that's interesting. I think it's a real thing, though. I really do, man. It's most times it's what team gets hot at the end of the year. You know, It really is. I mean, Packers 2010. Go watch that tape. See Jason Y in the chat. Why is it? Man, I got pterodactyls in here tonight, Yo. It's warm up. Kill me, bro. Jason Y says, why does it seem like we are worse in penalties this year than last year? I'd have to go look at it to see. I don't necessarily feel like it's worse this year. I remember last year. Am I wrong, Emilio? Last year was pretty bad too, wasn't
it? I think the fact of the consistently, I think we had a few really bad games last year. I think this year there's been way too many repeatedly. Like we've been +5. I'd have to pull the numbers, but it's almost pushing double digit, it seems like, per game on penalties. And that's just, I mean, they need to be running sprints for it. And do you think that's on Matt? I'm not sure. Do you think it's on the coach? Do you think it's on the position coaches? Do you put it just on the players? You put it just on Sean Ryan? You put it just on TJ Slayton for jumping off sides, or the holds, or what? You know, how can you look at that and just put it on one person and not the whole unit?
Right. Yeah, no, it's a good point. And again, I don't necessarily look up and go, yeah, we're worse at penalties this year than last year. It could be the case, and it might not even be close. For me, it's more about, like you said, it happens in such spurts. Like you'll get 2 or 3 penalties on a drive, and you couple that with 2 bad snaps back to back. Granted, It was in the rain, but Ragnow had no problem snapping the ball, did he? So that's something that, I don't think it's worse this year, Jason. At least it doesn't feel like it to me. But definitely playing a role in the losses.
From a quick search, don't quote me on this, but right now they have 2024. We're sitting at 24th ranked with 7.3 per game. Last 3 we've had 7 per game. Last one we had 10. At home we're at 7.4, away 7.3. Last year we were 5.9.
Okay,
now,
so
obviously, but still a bigger sample size for the rest of the year, obviously. But yes, currently right now we're averaging, 1.5 more than we were last year, penalty and a half more per game than last year.
So to answer your question, Jason, why does it seem like we're worse in penalties this year than last year? Because we are, right? Pretty much it. That checks out. So Coach Lynn says, for Chalk Talk, we should show the low lights. I saw some really bad technique by guys on both sides of the ball. There's going to be some low lights in it. Now, listen, there's going to be explosive plays for the Packers too, because nobody wants to tune in. See, Coach Lynn is a coach. He's looking at it. I got excited to watch the tape today because I wanted to understand, like, what the hell happened, right? How did it get so bad so quick, type thing? And I know he looks at it the same way. The problem, though, Coach, is a lot of our viewers don't want to tune in to see the Packers suck. You know what I mean? Like, you want to bury the game ball, move on, and move on to the next week. But there will be some low lights. We're going to show what happened and why did it happen. Why did the Packers lose the game? That's what we're going to talk about. And we got 16 plays. So really, really tried to dig in and find some of those plays that was like, because there are some good plays for the Packers too. Jaden Reed had a hell of a game. I think he was the highest graded player according to PFF with a minimum of 25 snaps. So that was impressive. He seemed to be kind of back to form from last year. But it'll be a fun Chalk Talk episode for sure, man. We'll make it enjoyable. United Bates, Ja has not played in 30 of his 77 regular season games. I think it's like 39%. Man, that's pretty wild. Like we broke down, it was the last 32 games he's missed. Half of his games.
Half out of the last 32.
Yeah, stuff, man. The stuff. Bates, what I'm learning within the fan base too is there's a portion of the fan base you are not allowed to say anything negative about Jaire Alexander. It just can't happen. Like Rashawn Gary, everybody's like, have at it. Let's put all the blame on him. But Ja, it's like, you're not allowed to touch Jaire Alexander. But that availability and accountability is huge. Last year, he was not accountable. He was breaking off his assignment, right? We showed it time and time again. The entire defense would be playing zone or would be playing man, and he would just let his guy take off running. He just kind of sit in the zone. Like, I don't feel like covering him right now. You guys take him. That's accountability. Availability, obviously we talked about he's missed 50% of the games, 50% of the last 32 games. So, it's tough, man. It is. And again, that's money you spent. And that's where sometimes GMs can get in trouble too, overpaying for their own guys. I'll tell you someone that nobody's talking about. We talked about him going into the offseason. I said, don't extend him. Let him test free agency. That was Kenny Clark. And guys, Kenny it's not good. Everybody expected him in this defense to just blow up. Remember, we had our predictions. I've got them wrote down here. Remember when we did that? Somebody asked.
Oh, yeah.
So I predicted, what was it? I'm trying to think of, let's see, a PFF rate of 77. All right. 45 tackles and 9.5 sacks. Okay. You predicted 8.5 sacks, 55 tackles, and a PFF grade of 78. Tim said 10.5 sacks, 45 tackles, 80 PFF grade, and Jacob said a 10 plus sacks, 40 tackles, and a 75 PFF grade. He is not tracking that.
I was waiting for it,
bro. It's
that one is not looking good.
Not at all. And Joe Barry fell on the sword for a lot of stuff, and that was one of them right at the top. Is wait till Kenny Clark gets away from Joe Barry and watch he's going to blow up. He's going to. Former players all offseason were like, "I'll talk to Kenny Clark. This guy, this one gap approach and blah." And it's like, you guys played football. You know they're not playing one gap every snap. You know that. And their base 34 jam, absolutely. But Kenny's one. It's like now GMs, they like to re-sign their own guys because it says we hit that one. Look at what we paid him, right?
Yeah.
I think there might be a little bit of that. I don't know. Hopefully he blows up in the second half of the season because he typically does play better in the second half. He's a leader, don't get me wrong. One of those guys you want in the locker room. But, man, for the money they're paying him, like I said, people like to pile on Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary's leading the team in pressures, and it's not even close. I think he's up to 28 pressures now, and there's no one. I don't think there's anybody within 10 pressures of him. But nobody's talking about Kenny Clark, who's last I checked, he was the highest paid interior defensive lineman, depending on what aspect of the contract you look at. But
yeah,
anyway.
the chart there. I'm sorry, the chat's been chat's going off about Kenny too.
Oh, are they roasting me over it?
Oh, no. Just so Greg, don't understand Clark's lack of production. Nate Dogg thinks it's Kenny's last year. Respect Oranges. Forgot Kenny was on the team. So we're. We should have
just talked PFF grades, man. Now here, the whole thing. There was one comment. What was the second comment you pulled up just now?
That was definitely Clark's last year in Green Bay.
I don't see that because didn't they give him a 3-year extension, right? Or is it just 2?
Yep.
So again, 3-year extensions are typically 2 years, then you can get out, right?
TC fan, I have a soft spot for Kenny. Ted's the last great pick.
Oh man, that's a good point.
And then Eric Sutherland going off.
You can't put it up, can you?
No, yeah, we can. He said Clark should be arrested for theft.
Damn it, Eric. What's wrong with you, man?
Eric, you're killing us, man.
Unbelievable. Let's move on here. Respect Oranges got over the loss pretty quick. On to beating the Bears. Amen. I love that. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Ron Sample, both losses were without Ja as well. Yeah. And
Lions Vikings he's talking, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the biggest, those are the big games, bub. That's not a good thing for Ja right there. If Ron, if you're looking at it see how bad we are without Jair, that's not a good thing when your highest paid cornerback in the league is missing the biggest games.
Yeah.
It looks a little sus. I'm not going to BS anybody. It looks a little sus to me.
You wouldn't be happy. You wouldn't be happy if your partner took off on a 35-day mow day, right?
No,
you know what I'm
all
saying?
Of a sudden, man, my hammy a little tight.
I can't be on the walk behind for 8 hours today.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's faking injuries. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it sucks that he's missing the biggest game.
Yes.
Right? So, for those of you listening on the pod, that's going to do it for hour 1. We will see you on the other side for hour 2. We appreciate y'all.